So we will be talking about one-sided limits from a graph. So we are trying to ultimately find out what f of x is approaching as the x values are equating to 3. But we can see that there are two different values that f of x is approaching when x is 3. So we have to use one-sided limits. So basically, one-sided limits, we can approach the same value of x from two different sides. So first we can start off with approaching 3 from the left side. So what that means is that we're approaching 3 from values less than 3. So we can say that we're slowly building up to 3 from values such as 2.9 and then 2.99, 2.999, and so forth. So basically all values left of 3 on the number line. And so as x is approaching 3 from the left side, we can see that the value that it equates to is 2. So we could say that f of x as x is approaching 3 from the left would be 2. Now for 3 being approached from the right side, so that would be all values greater than 3, so such as 3.1, 3.001, 3.0001, and so forth, all those values. We want to find out what f of x is approaching. And so if we follow the line, we can see that from the right side, we can see that f of x equals to 3 when x is 3 from the right. And now ultimately we ask ourselves, what is f of x approaching as x equals just 3 by itself and not coming from either side? Well, because when we take the value of 3 from the left and 3 from the right, and f of x is not equal to each other, so 2 doesn't equal to 3 or 3 doesn't equal to 2, we can say that the limit of f of x when x is 3 by itself does not exist. Because in order for f of x to be defined at 3 from the left and 3 from the right, those values have to be equal to each other. So 2 and 3 are not equal to each other. F of x when x equals 3 does not exist. And moving on, we have a graph here where the asymptote is x equals negative 2. So, because we don't really know what exactly is being defined at x equals negative 2, we can find one-sided limits again. So, we can ask ourselves, what is f of x approaching as x is approaching negative 2 from the left side? So that would be all values to the left of negative 2, such as negative 2.1, negative 2.001, negative 2.0001. As long as it's less than negative 2, it is approaching negative 2 from the left. So, we can see that when we follow the line here, the function does not have an end. So, as x approaches negative 2 from the left, we can see that y is becoming negative infinity. So we would say that f of x is approaching negative infinity as x approaches negative 2 from the left. And now that we ask ourselves, what is f of x approaching as x is approaching negative 2 from the right side? We follow this line here, and we can see that f of x, or the y values, are slowly increasing and increasing and increasing, and that would mean that f of x equals to infinity when x is negative 2 from the right side. So now, what is the limit of f of x as x is approaching negative 2? Well, this is an asymptote, so none of the values here are defined. So we would say that f of x does not exist. But also, f of x when approaching negative 2 from both the left and the right side do not equal to each other. So therefore, even if it wasn't an asymptote, the values of f of x would not exist anyways at negative 2. And now we are approaching a point from a continuous function, or a part of a continuous function. And so we ask ourselves, what is f of x approaching as x equals negative 1 from the left side? So we look at the graph, negative 1 is here. So we want to approach negative 1 from values less than negative 1. So negative 2, negative 3, we'd go up, and we can see that at negative 1, from approaching from the left side, the value that f of x would be 4. So you would say that f of x equals to 4 as x approaches negative 1 from the left. And from the right, f of x, the limit of f of x as x approaches negative 1 from the right. We follow the values that are greater than negative 1, so 0, 0.1, all those values. As we are approaching negative 1 from the right, we see that f of x is equal to 4. So f of x equals to 4 when x is approaching negative 1 from the right. And so what is the limit of f of x when x is just negative 1? Well, because these two values are equal to each other, so negative 1, the values of f of x for when negative 1 is being approached from left and right are 4, then the function when x is equal to negative 1 is 4. So this function is, or that part of the function is defined because both these values are the same. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.